Dustin Starr here, coming to you live with the official live reaction of episode 116, featuring Jerry Lynn and one of the biggest matches and rematches in the history of Memphis wrestling in the modern era. What's up, everybody? Dustin Starr here. Let's talk all about it. What's going on, Steve? Hello, Michael. He says he's here for the 5-star party. Oh, yeah. Well, I've been up since about 5:30 this morning. I was at the Orion 5K hosting out there. And of course, Orion Federal Credit Union brings you the Fan of the Week each and every Saturday right here on Memphis Wrestling. And gosh, the fans went absolutely nuts for the main event. They were totally shocked when Austin Lane attacked, and Nikki Lane attacked Jerry Lynn. The show is just off the hook, but I want to hear what you thought about it. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the comments. And while you are doing it, I'm going to make an announcement right here for the first time ever. Like I have not. This is where the announcement's going to be right here. June the 4th, at Sunday, June 4th, Memphis Wrestling is live at the WrestleCenter. We have a capacity crowd already. Ringside are nearly sold out, but we've got former AEW superstar and current Impact Wrestling superstar, Dark Order member number 5, Alan Angels, is coming to Memphis Wrestling on June the 4th. Go ahead and get your tickets at championshipwrestlingmemphis.com. We are looking forward to making more announcements about June 4th coming up very, very soon. But we wanted to let you know that Alan Angels is coming to Memphis Wrestling. He will be here on June 4th. Let me get caught up. Rob says, what an ending. Just wish that Toomer could have had a clean shot. Well, Barnabas the leader and Maurice the strong told you exactly what they were going to do. And they did ruin that match again. But what about Big Trouble Ben Bishop coming out and sticking his nose into it? He said he wasn't going to surprise the gun show when he cashed in Cobra Cup. Looks like he's kept his word so far, but we will see. I'm sure more on that next week. Robert says, Dustin, who is worse, Austin Lane or Don Callis? I know Austin personally, so I can tell you he is worse. And what he did to his friend Jerry Lynn is absolutely despicable. And the way that this whole thing was set up, it looks like Nikki really did set up Jerry Lynn, and I have no idea why, but now do we have a duo of Austin and Nikki Lane? And let me tell you this, those two aren't going to get off with this very easy. You attacked an AEW coach. You attacked somebody who doesn't necessarily work for our company. That is big trouble. So we'll see how the championship committee comes down on them or if there's any action. But yeah, Austin and Nikki Lane attack Jerry Lynn, choke him out after attacking him, roll him in and choke him out. If you missed it, got to go back and watch it. I know everybody's going to be talking about it. Patrick Moore says, hi, Dustin. Do you still plan on having Tim Bosby versus Jonathan Gresham in a Pure Rules match? I think that was in a conversation where I said I would love to see that match, and I still would, but you're holding me to it like I promised that match. I will do everything in my power to have that match happen, but it is not signed just yet. Rob says, great show. Nikki did that man wrong. Did that man dirty. What's up, Jacoby? How are you? Michael says, hey, Dustin, sending a hello to you from Ricardo Rodriguez. Was out to buy a ticket or 3 Legacies Wrestling May the 19th in Lancaster. It gets franchised. Awesome. Yes, Ricardo Rodriguez, very, very good friend of mine. I worked with him in developmental. I would actually love to have him come out to Memphis at some point. So, Alberto Del. I can't roll my R's. I won't even give it a shot, but Ricardo is great at it. Rob says, Baldy Brad made a rainy day sunny. Man, did you see the highlights on that? What a fun show. For everybody but Brad, of course. Getting his head shaved by Uncle Mikey and the fans at the WrestleCenter, and then coming out with a phony wig on. Now, don't get me wrong. I love corny, hokey, classic, old school Memphis wrestling stuff, but come on, Brad. But then to have Big Swole wig snatch, as Justin Timberlake would say here, wig snatch. Yeah, all right. Austin Lane, Bob Backlund is what Rob says. Lurvy says, hello, Dustin. After watching the main event, why not a 4-way dance to decide the Memphis Heavyweight Championship, Memphis Heritage Championship? The Gun Show versus K. Toomer versus Maurice versus Big Trouble Ben Bishop. Lurvy, stay tuned. you never know what's going to happen next on Memphis Wrestling. And keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is out of our control, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Willie says, hi, Dustin. I always go for the gold. Cassandra Golden will get her revenge on Nix. Well, that match is signed, so it's coming up very, very soon. Within the next couple of weeks of Memphis Wrestling, we will see Cassandra Golden get her rematch against the goddess of the night, Nix. Rob says, bald Brad got the wig from Ronald McDonald. Well, I'll tell you what, Brad actually looks better bald than he did with hair. Larry says, Jerry Jarrett, Eddie Marlin, Guy Coffey, and Rocky Johnson were in charge of Memphis Championship Committee. Who's in charge of the modern Memphis Wrestling Championship Committee? That is a question that we'll have an answer on another day, Larry, but very, very good. So if you're looking at television and you're looking at the general manager storylines that you had with WWE or Classic Memphis, where you had these different promoters and figureheads, if you will, that made up a committee, well, we've always talked about a championship committee, but we've never said who's on it. So I think that's one of those additional long-term storytelling storylines that you'll see probably come to fruition at some point, Larry. But I love that you brought that up. Eric P says, I don't know that there's a weekly 1-hour wrestling show better than Memphis Wrestling is in the U.S. right now. Well, Eric, I take that as a huge compliment, and I know that some of our staff and workers and supporters and stuff are in the chat, and it probably warms their heart and fills it up like it does mine just to read something like that. So we appreciate being in the conversation, and what I will tell you, Eric P, is that we will continue to give 110% every single day of the week for Memphis Wrestling to get better and better and better. So thank you for that comment. Really appreciate that, Eric. And if you guys saw the highlights at West Carroll High School and Strayhorn High last week, man, the fundraisers are doing very, very well. We're raising money in the community for football teams, for bands. Also, Ingomar Baseball is coming up, and we are super excited to announce that we will be doing a fundraiser on behalf of St. Jude. So that is coming very, very soon. We'll be making the announcement at some point, probably this week, to be perfectly honest with you. So doing more in the community with Championship Community. I don't know the phone number off the top of my head, but it's in the advertisements and the commercials. It's also on the website as well. So if you have a need for a special event or a fundraiser, hit us up. Patrick Moore says, hey, Dustin Starr, I'm curious to see if Tim Bosby can hang in that setting. Me too. Stay tuned. We're going to put all the tough tasks in front of the Boz. And as I mentioned, he's out in Chattanooga tonight. He was in Knoxville last night with SmackDown. So the Boz is doing big things, and he's taking the Memphis Wrestling Internet Championship to a whole nother level. Robert says, Dustin, any chance of Danny Limelight defending the United Wrestling Network title in Memphis? Yes, there is a high chance. Those conversations and negotiations have gone back and forth, and now it looks like myself and David Marquez are speaking about it. So I would imagine that Danny Limelight will defend the world title here at some point very, very soon. But I ask you guys, go ahead and put it in the chat. Danny Limelight versus who? Who gets a shot at the world championship? Rob says, Mikey had a shorter due 2 weeks ago. Eric P says, I really appreciate being able to count on knowing I can tune in anytime to see some good old school wrestling. Well, I appreciate that, Eric P. Yes, we have every single episode available in full right here on this channel for free on demand. And then also every single Sunday at noon, we have Championship Wrestling presented by Car Shield. And then at 1 p.m., there's a whole nother hour of Derby City Wrestling, and it's all original content from the United Wrestling Network. You'll love it if you haven't seen it. We really appreciate you watching Memphis Wrestling. Lurvy says, I recently have received the strangest Facebook friend request from Barnabas the Leader. Well, he's probably recruiting. Rob, the Possums canceled their retirement party. What does this mean? Why? What is going on with these guys? Extreme measures? As if we haven't seen extreme measures in the past from the posse. What could possibly be brewing next? Stay tuned. Steve says, wow, that would be all of them against Toomer. That's a good point. Willie says, Bradley looks like Lex Luthor's twin brother, Larry. Did Brad get that suit from Suits You? Of course he did. Brody the Rockstar says, great show today. Thank you so much, Brody. I look forward to seeing you guys pretty soon. I think there might be a luncheon or something coming up that I'm going to do my best to try to make it out there, too. I missed you guys at the ball game a couple of weeks ago, too. But I'll see you guys soon. Eric P says, if you need a commissioner, let me know. Jake Pinn, can you just book a triple threat? I guess we could. Stay tuned next week. Rob says, I thought Austin was going to interfere in the Boz match. Hey, let me tell you this. Why on earth would Big Trouble Ben Bishop want a triple threat? He's got an opportunity anytime, any place. I certainly wouldn't want it to be part of a triple threat. I'd definitely want one-on-one, unless there's some strategy there. Lurvy says, I believe forgotten WWE wrestlers would look good in the United Wrestling Network in Memphis. James Ellsworth, love him or hate him, is a prime example. Spirit Squad, oh yeah, that's a really good one too. Lurvy, I totally agree. Bushwhacker Luke did a fantastic job with us. James Ellsworth, like you said, like him or not, he does a fantastic job for us. I thought when Eugene came back a couple years ago, he did fantastic. Gangrel, Boogeyman's another story, but did fantastic. So yes, we do very well with the classic classic to some WWE superstars. So we do look forward. Another name that's on the top of my list is the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, baby. Definitely got to have Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart in Memphis at some point. Who else would you guys like to see? I'll put that in there. Who do you want to see on Memphis Wrestling? And I'll keep reading. Rob says Barnabas means son of a man in Hebrew. Fun fact, okay. Coley says, why Don Callis turn on Kenny Omega? Why? Why did Austin and Nikki turn on Jerry Lynn? Who knows? Let's see. Willie says K-Tumor, Papo Esco versus the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, Tyrus. Okay. Michael says, I think Austin Lane needs another suspension. Looks like Austin Lane might be getting one of those. Jake says Moose. Rob says Danny Limelight versus K-Tumor. Limelight versus Austin Lane. Yeah, because Austin deserves that after what he pulled today. Bo says Danny Limelight versus Mike Anthony. Whoa. Mike Anthony versus Danny Limelight. Gun Show versus Danny Limelight. All right, if the Lanes form a new faction, it would certainly look better than the ones James Prince and Matt are forming. I would agree with that. Another Danny Limelight versus Mike Anthony. Anyone call the Reverend Ash Hole hotline this week? That's a new feature coming very soon to Memphis Wrestling if we can find any of those voicemails that are clean enough to put on TV. Jeez. The phone number was actually on TV today, so we'll see what happens. Jordan Grace versus Nix. Oh, that would be great. Can't wait to see Jimmy Blaylock versus Colton Cage. That's coming up within the next couple of weeks here on Memphis Wrestling as well. Remember, Colton beat Van Vicious in order to earn the opportunity at a match with Jimmy Blaylock. We all know how that's going to go. Lurvy says Bradley looked like a reject grunge rocker from the 1990s with that wig on. He could join Barnabas and call himself the Bald Freak Bradley. Okay, yeah, I mean, why not? Gaston found the Pulp Fiction case. Eric says, do you ever wish you could have run a promotion in the days where kayfabe was 100% in effect? Probably not, and the only reason is because social media is such a powerful tool that if you do it back in the day, there's no social media. There probably should be a little more kayfabe in the business today than what we have, but at this point, it's like the toothpaste coming out of the tube. What are you going to do? Our wrestling is real. Right, Maria?
Sure.
NWA versus AAA in Mexico. I'm not sure what brought that up, but return of Dave Brown to Memphis Wrestling. Well, Dave has been on Memphis Wrestling. I'll actually just recently worked with Dave at FedEx Forum as well. Rob, if Austin versus Mike were to fight, it would be a 2-turn match. How about bringing in Victoria? Are you talking about Victoria? I love Victoria. She was here in Memphis for a while. Austin Idol on Memphis Wrestling. Wow. Rebel Kell versus Nix. I like it. Johnny Robbie versus Nix. Diona Perazzi. Did I say that right? Psycho Clown Tag Team I saw wrestle in Mississippi could recruited. No. Lurvy. Ooh. Have you seen those guys, Lurvy? Ooh. And I know not everything on our show is polished, but gee whiz, if it's who I'm thinking of. Austin Idol versus Austin Lane and a loser leaves Austin match. Patrick says, do you know why NWA and UWM are beefing? I'm not beefing with NWA. We had, Mickey James here with the Knockouts World Championship. We had Nick Aldis here. We've had Camille here with the Women's World title. There's no beef with my side of the United Wrestling Network with NWA, that's for sure. I actually just spoke to Camille recently. I've also spoke to Austin Idol recently. Vipress versus Nyx, that would be good. The Bunny versus Nyx, okay. Why everyone using AI? I don't know. Dutch Mantel on Memphis Wrestling. Yeah, no, I think Dutch is not. Forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think he's not capable of traveling at this point. But trust me, I spoke to. And this sounds crazy. Everybody you guys are mentioning, I'm like, hey, I just talked to that guy. Yeah, I'm such a big shot. But I did talk to Dutch Mantel recently. Probably, perhaps voicing over something and doing some voice work for Memphis Wrestling. So we shall see. Dr. D. David Schultz. Yep, that was a blast from the past. Their huge lack of wrestling in West Tennessee, east of Memphis since USWA shut down. Any chance of y'all expanding into the Jackson or Savannah area for a couple of shows a year? Well, we were doing the Jackson Fair, which I believe is the Tennessee State Fair. And then there was a little bit of drama within that whole situation, and we obviously are on WBBJ CBS Jackson, so there is an opportunity of doing shows out there. But then also, yes and no, to answer your question. We're not necessarily looking to expand outside of our television reach. So if we're on television in that city or that town, then chances are pretty good that at some point we will do a live event there, especially if a fundraiser brings us there, because a fundraiser is more of a community type of event. And Memphis Wrestling is very much community. Trust me, we would love to go sell out Mid-South Coliseum or Lander Center or something like that. But if we can go and draw 1,000 to 2,000 people at a local high school and help raise $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 perhaps, then to me that's more heartwarming than anything else. I know that sounds hokey, but that really is it. And you're partnering not only with the school, you're partnering with the kids, you're partnering with the school board, you're partnering with so many people instead of just going out and doing it yourself. And I think there's nothing wrong with going out and doing it yourself like that. It's just at this point we are growing within the community, and that's very, very important to Memphis Wrestling, especially with it being gone for 15 years without television. And so I think, like many of you that are saying, hey, you're glad that we're here and reliable every single Saturday, I think there's a lot of die-hard Memphis Wrestling fans that didn't believe at first, but now we have just been on a roll because of you guys watching, and talent is so good. But I feel like we've just been on a roll to where the question now is not how long are they going to last. It's like, oh my gosh, when's the next taping? And so it's a very exciting time for Memphis Wrestling. Some really big stuff coming up too. I cannot wait to let you all know about it. R3, Charles Cassis against K Toomer. Jake says he hasn't heard from Dutch. Me and Dutch text from time to time. Also on Twitter, he is a ham. Rob says more Big Swole. He has concrete and snake venom in his glass. Yes. Any chances of bringing in some Memphis Wrestling legends to join the chat for future episodes? Yeah, I guess it's a really unique time because it's during the day. I don't know where some of the wrestlers were, but if you noticed, Big Swole Justin Cole was in the chat. Big John Dalton was in the chat. Terrence Ward was in the chat. Myself. I can't remember if I saw K Toomer and Gunshow in there, but typically we have an appearance from them as well. So I'm pretty sure, and if you're talking about classic Memphis legends and stuff, I mean, they probably know how to watch us on YouTube, but probably don't know how to chat and interact. With all due respect. Patrick Moore says, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I'm hoping there would be a UWN branch from Dallas, Texas, bringing back WCCW USWA style. What do you think? I think we did. They did have a Texas brand. I do not know what happened to it, but it's no longer going, just like the Championship Wrestling from Arizona. So they have branched out, and some of them have worked. But obviously the COVID situation definitely killed Arizona. And I hate to use the word killed because they just did a big sellout for the Rumble out there. And it was in Arizona. But that brand, Championship Wrestling from Arizona, is no longer running. Maurice versus Toomer in a barbed wire crowbar match. Well, you've seen us advertise Maurice versus Toomer in a tables match. That's coming up on Memphis Wrestling. Coley says, do you know about Derby City Wrestling? Yes, absolutely know a lot about Derby City Wrestling. If you read the credits on Derby City Wrestling, you will see my name there. So I have a lot to do with Derby City Wrestling. Love Gilbert Corsi, love David Marquez, love all the guys and gals out in Louisville. I cannot wait to make a visit with some of the Memphis Wrestling boys and girls to come out to Louisville. So yeah, absolutely. You can watch Derby City Wrestling right here every single Sunday on this YouTube channel at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, right after Championship Wrestling presented by CarShield. Willie says, Memphis Wrestling ever do a crossover with Championship Wrestling or Derby City Wrestling? Yeah, ideally we would have talent on each of those shows. So stay tuned on that. And also, we have had Peter Avalon on the program. We've had Anthony Idol on the program. Gosh, I'm trying to think of who else. Jordan Cruz was on the program here. So we've had quite a few of the United Wrestling Networks. Mike Anthony has gone to Hollywood, The Gun Show, The Young Goats, myself. So there has been some, and I understand you guys want more, so we'll do our best to get that for you. Rob says, I like seeing highlights from fundraising matches. Me too, and you can see many, many more of those pictures at MemphisWrestlingPlus.com. Steve says, how about Gun Show versus Jordan Clearwater? I'm here for it. Michael says, by the way, congratulations to T. Ward and his lovely bride on being parents-to-be. It's coming up. Woo! Terrence is making me sweat. TV taping on the due date. Yeah, that's crazy. I know. Main Event Bradley also been in the chat. Yeah, Main Event Bradley was here. Glad for the Derby City show. Happy birthday to Derek King. That's in the chat. Thank you for that. How were you able to keep afloat during COVID? Well, we actually launched at the end of COVID. So we sat on it for a second before we actually launched the local version of Memphis Wrestling here. Dustin, busiest talker in Memphis. I feel like the Roadrunner. I'm trying to not get too far behind on the chat, but then thoroughly answer your questions. Eric P. says, any confirmed plans for Thunder Rosa to return to Memphis Wrestling this year? I've talked to Thunder a couple of times about a couple of different dates, but nothing has been set in stone just yet. Stay tuned, especially with her appearing on AEW Dynamite this week. Lurvy said, I'd love to see Midnight Heat come to Memphis. They are perfect for Memphis Wrestling style. Bring back Brian Cage to the United Wrestling Network. And I'm hoping Action Jackson comes back. Action Jackson has a show out in Sherwood, Arkansas. Don't know if we'll see him back, but who knows? I didn't know I was going to see him back the last time he was there. All right, everybody, we're wrapping things up here live for the live reaction episode 116 featuring Jerry Lynn being attacked and choked out by Austin and Nikki Lane. And then, of course, the Gun Show, one-on-one with K. Toomer. Controversial finish, but the Gun Show stands tall, retains the Memphis Heritage Championship. Also, let's not forget, Memphis Wrestling Tag Team Champions with their first title defense, and they looked very, very good this week. DK and Ray Ray retained the championship, and of course, the Boz. What better way? And I know you guys don't like the Boz and you boo him, but what better way to kick off a championship Saturday than with a homegrown 19-year-old rookie sensation who's making his city proud, even if he does have a bad attitude, internet champion coming through the curtains to a custom theme song that just gets stuck in my head every single time I hear it. Second to none. Anyways, what a show. Championship Saturday. Big shout out to Terrence Ward. He did another great job at helping edit the show together, produce the show, stagehand, the whole 9 yards. Big shout out to Neil Taylor as well. Victoria, who was also timing back there. She did terrible, but thank you anyway. I'm just kidding, Victoria. Just kidding. Rob says, great show as always. See most of you tomorrow, UWN on Derby City. Steve says, thanks. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Lurvy, you guys have a good week. And remember, June the 4th, we are live at the WrestleCenter. Get your tickets at ChampionshipWrestlingMemphis.com. We have Dark Order member number 5, Alan Angels, is coming to Memphis Wrestling. Those of you who have got the VIP tickets, you'll be meeting him. Also, stay tuned because we are excited about announcing another big superstar that's coming to Memphis Wrestling, somebody that you guys would really enjoy. And if you're watching this at a later time, go ahead and put in the chat here who you want to see in Memphis Wrestling. Hey, I don't think Georgia, well, yeah, Georgia was ours. I was going to say Georgia. That was Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. So Atlanta at center stage. That one lasted a couple of tapings, right? That's why you guys need to go out if you can. If it's in your local market, go out and support. Without your support, these wrestling organizations cannot run. And that's the bottom line, because 5 Stars said so. All right, have a good weekend. K Toomer going to shoot my shot. K Toomer versus Samoa Joe. Did K Toomer just call out Samoa Joe in the live reaction? Show enough, and I don't think we can top that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the live reaction for episode 116. I am Dustin Starr, and there it is, show enough. Saying so long, everybody. K Toomer's gonna be pissed next week. Just watch.